Hello everyone, and welcome to my newest video. Today, I'm going to be answering a question that I'm sure many of you ETO players out there have had before. How many killbrick hits are required to finish every tower in EToH's first ring? We're going to be taking a look at each individual tower to see which killbricks can be avoided and which ones can't. And at the end, we'll tally up each and every killbrick hit to see how we did. But before we actually get into it, I'm here in the void to cover a couple of things. I first wanted to talk about my plans for this channel, as you may have noticed that this is my first video in a long while, and I'm using my voice for the first time. I want to start making actual content, and I know I've said this a couple of times on this channel and I've never really been able to pull through. I'm planning on doing one video once a month though, and I want to lean more heavily into voice commentary, though I may do text-based videos still on occasion. I'm also thinking about creating content outside of Roblox because, well, I think we all know the state of this platform right now. I'm also doing live streams once a week if you haven't noticed, usually on Friday or Saturday, so if that sounds interesting to you, you should come say hello. The few streams we've done so far have been super fun, and I've enjoyed talking with some of you and just playing games and hanging out. With that out of the way, we are not ready to leave the void yet because we need to talk about this challenge a little bit. First, I want to make it clear exactly what we're doing here, as I'm sure you've seen a couple of ETO damageless videos in the past, most notably this series right here by ScoutX a few years back. This series will be somewhat inspired by that, but my goals are a little bit different. We're not here to see what towers are possible, damageless per se, but rather to see what the minimum amount of required hits is to beat each tower. That means we'll be running all the way through and talking about sections that were particularly tricky in each one. There's also 3 primary rules I want to cover real fast. First, I'm banning the use of any items outside of T-pose and helicopter powers. This is because there's some items like the Christmas decoration launcher that completely destroy the spirit of the challenge, since you can just get rid of every killbrick. T-pose and heli make things easier, but also much more interesting, so I chose to allow them for usage here. The second rule is that every killbrick must be proven. That means if there's a trick or something to get around a killbrick, even if I know it exists, I still have to pull it off to prove it's actually possible. And for the final rule, any skips used must be safe, which basically means I'm outlawing things that skip major portions of towers. Alright, and with that all out of the way, I think I've covered everything I want to talk about, and we're ready to go. Let's head into the challenge so I can show you what it's all about. Enjoy the video. Starting off with our first 3 towers, Tower of a Simple Time, a Tower of Anger, and Tower of Madness, they all went just about how you would expect. 0 killbrick hits for each one. Every killbrick had a clear and easy path to avoid. So, I won't waste your time by showing you each one, and we can move on straight to the interesting stuff. That means we're starting here in Tower of Noticeable Infuriation, where, through the first 4 floors, things stay relatively simple and easy to avoid. And it stays that way up until the end of floor 4, where we start to encounter a couple more killbricks, including this little section which had me just a bit worried, but nothing that a few simple grabs can't solve. Up on floor 5, however, things were starting to get more interesting. There was this section here that had me a bit concerned, but nothing that a few well-timed and precise wraps cannot solve. As we make our way through the rest of floor 5, you can start to see that it's becoming a bit more precise, as the landings for the killbricks up ahead are much smaller than anything we've seen so far. Now, that being said, everything is still very much avoidable, so we can make our way all the way to floor 7 with no further issues. It was then that I encountered this funny little killbrick right here, which I decided I didn't want to do, so I hit a little wall hop skip to get past it. But that's not why we're stopping here. There's something up ahead that will pose our first real threat of this challenge. this cramped little area that's very reminiscent of that one part of Tower of Madness is full of kill breaks, so we have to take our time to carefully avoid each and every one. Which isn't too hard, and we can get back outside for just a brief moment. But then, once we're back on top, we head back inside and we face a problem. These kill bricks are just a little bit too close together to be avoidable. My first thought was to try and inch along the wall, but I wasn't sure if that was going to work, so I tried T-pose, and it got me through the first pair of kill bricks, but the next ones were an issue. I had to line it up very carefully and then use T-pose and inch my way between the gap, using alignment keys to make sure I didn't touch either of them. Up next, we've got these very tight kill bricks, which you have to hold jump in order to not hit your legs on them. And this took me a few tries, and I was looking for a way to get around it, but ultimately, the only way was through. Before we're in the clear though, we have one more challenge to face, and it is something that will be prevalent throughout the rest of this series. Sometimes there's kill bricks that hit you through the wall, as you could see right there. There was a kill brick outside, and I hit it with my arm through the wall. We'll have to be very careful to avoid these ones, as they can really catch you off guard if you're not paying attention. After that, there's nothing notable left in the tower, so we can make our way through the rest and touch the wind pad. And that means that we've done Tower of Noticeable Infuriation with 0 kill brick hits. Up next is Tower of Heck, which, if you've ever played the tower before, you'll probably remember that there's not a single kill brick on the first 7 floors. So I'll go ahead and skip straight to floor 8 so we can take a look at the kill bricks in this tower. Now, we don't actually encounter any until this outside, where we can see our first ones over there. However, we don't actually have to do them, as we can just take these 2 easy skips to avoid all of the kill bricks on this specific outside, which leads us to floor 9. Over here on 9, we face a problem. Several kill brick platforms are blocking the way forward, and there's no way to progress without jumping on them. However, I remember seeing a clip quite a long time ago of someone performing what is known as an edge lag high jump, where you basically jump onto the edge sort of like this, and you lag high jump at the same time, allowing you to get a lag high jump with no actual wall. However, since I wasn't able to technically prove this, I decided to move on and show you the rest of Tower of Heck. We'll be back to this section on floor 9 to give it some more attempts later, and if I can successfully pull it off, we'll count it as 0 hits on the total. The rest of floor 9 is also pretty tight, starting off with these kill brick walls you have to jump over. They're a little bit tall, but you can just about clear them. After that, we've got a ladder in which you must high jump against the wall in order to get enough height to get over the kill brick. And to end off the floor, we have these super tight jumps where you have 1 stud of landing space on the very edge to get around the kill brick. And after that, it's the transition from floor 9 to 10. And oh boy, was this a fun one. So I started off by just inspecting the section for a little while, before deciding that the best possible way to take it on would be to do some wall hops. And it was immediately clear that this wasn't going to be easy. But after a couple minutes and a few tries, I was able to get past this first wall, leaving us only with this end section. And I spent a while on this section, several minutes attempting these wall hops to no avail, failing over and over again to the point where I had to start using healing items because I was taking so much damage. But that's when I realized something on this attempt. That second wall seems low enough that I could probably get on top with a well-timed wall hop. Then, lo and behold, after a couple attempts and popping the crystal, I was able to get it. On top of the wall, taking no killbrick hits in that wall hop section. That is by far the most difficult thing we have faced so far, and it might not even save Tower of Heck from having killbrick hits. We'll have to come back later to see. But regardless, the rest of the tower is easily doable with no more killbrick hits, which leaves us with a grand total of 0 for Tower of Heck, theoretically. This next tower is one of the ones that inspired me to start this challenge, but also one of the ones that scared me the very most. But to start out with, we're going to be just fine until floor 2. Or so I thought. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem, huh? So the natural thing to do was to look for some way to get around this, and my first thought involved this wall right above the killbrick. If I could lag high jump high enough, I could wall hop and easily cross over this killbrick. But it didn't seem very possible, and after counting the studs, it's way too high. So I spent another moment desperately trying to find another way around this killbrick, but came to the conclusion that we have to take our very first killbrick hit, putting us at 1 for Tower of Killjoys and 1 killbrick hit total. After that, we can speed through floor 2 before getting stopped once again by another jump. And this one, at first glance, seemed just as impossible as that one on floor 1. It's simply too big to make it. But after doing several more attempts, I found out that with the help of T-pose, you are able to just barely make the jump to the ladder, meaning we can save this killbrick hit and move on. This outside here proved to be incredibly annoying, not because it was necessarily difficult, but because it was extremely luck-based on whether or not you would get hit with a random turret bullet. However, through my years of playing Tower of Killjoys, I knew for a fact that this outside was doable without any killbrick hits, as long as you time your jumps well and pay attention closely. However, something I did not consider was getting onto this conveyor here. It was much more difficult than I anticipated to get to the neat crossing without taking a hit from this turret. But if you're super tight with your jumps and you wrap around those bullets, you can make it here. And since we're in neat, and basically nothing is different from the normal one, we can actually cross neat off the list, which I'm sure you already could guess, comes out to be 0 killbrick hits as well. After that, we don't actually see any more killbricks in the tower until all the way up here at the end of floor 5, where on this outside, we've got a pretty spooky killbrick spinner to avoid. And this section turned out to be pretty interesting. After spending a minute on this section, I found that the only way to do it was to go as fast as possible to minimize killbrick hits. And so, after a couple of tries, I got a run where I was able to go super fast, and I took 1 killbrick hit, adding 1 to our total. This next section plays out a bit differently, however, because of these platforms up above that allow us to get enough height to jump over the killbrick spinner. Bam. Now, we just need to do it again, and then we have the button, and the rest is pretty easy. Then we have these next floors, which, as long as you don't fall, require a single cool high jump there, walking around this one stud pillar, and then hugging the corner here, and we make our way down to floor 9, where unfortunately we are met with yet another impasse. No matter how many times I attempted this jump to the corner, I just couldn't make it without getting hit. And this led me to some desperate measures. I tried all sorts of lag high jumps to avoid going down this hole, or to dodge taking the killbrick hit on the way down, but I was unsuccessful with all of them, which means we're adding one more killbrick hit to our total. We can make it past that pushbox section with relative ease before facing our next problem, which is this flat section down here. Now, survival sections like this are going to be tricky in this challenge because I know the killbrick hits are unavoidable, but I have to try and get as few as I can. And it's harder when the platforms are one stud thick like this and you kind of sink in and touch the killbrick. So I did this section to the best of my ability, but despite that, we still take several extra hits here just to get through that flat section. Now, this tower wasn't going to let me go without one more problem, and we encounter it right at the top of this ascending section. As you can see, these platforms are just too far apart to cross. Thankfully, in the newer versions of this tower, there's a bit of button progress right here, and if we use T-pose and align, we can just barely skim past this last killbrick and complete the tower, placing us at a grand total of an unfortunate but impressive 15 killbrick hits for Tower of Killjoys. Let's move on to the next one. Tower of Keyboard Yeeting starts out relatively simple, and the first few floors feature nothing more than simple killbrick jumps that we can breeze right past. We can get all the way to floor 6 with no issues whatsoever. So the first real problem we encounter is this killbrick wall right here, but we can just slide right past it with the help of T-pose. But this floor's not done yet. Now, despite how intimidating this jump looks at first, we can use T-pose to help us once again to get over this jump. And this is when I started to learn that T-pose is pretty much required for this challenge. It's going to be one of our most useful tools, as we've seen through all of the obstacles that we've gone through so far. Anyway, moving on to floor 7. There are no killbricks here, and we can move straight on to the next floor, which has a couple of killbricks, but as long as you're careful, we can get through just fine. And those are actually the last killbricks that we see in the tower, though I wanted to show off just how fast I did floor 9. Isn't that so impressive? But anyway, that means that we've got another 0 on our list of killbrick hits, and we can move on to Tower of Stress. This tower features no killbricks on floor 1, so I decided I would skip straight to floor 2 just to save some time. And the only trouble we face here was with the optional special super fast route, which I wanted to take to be cool, but unfortunately there are required killbrick hits, so we have to go the boring way. And honestly, that's just about the only interesting thing I have to say about this tower. And going into this challenge, I kind of expected all of the more modernized towers to have 0 killbrick hits, because in the more modern style, killbricks are usually placed in such a way that it's easy and you don't have to think about how to get around them. Even this truss on this floor, which in the previous version was pretty difficult to avoid getting hit, they've made it trivial. So I think it's safe to say that Tower of Stress is going to land at a solid 0 killbrick hits, and we can move on to Tower of Rage, which is actually going to be a pretty similar situation for the same reasons, which is why we're covering it before we head on to Tower of Screen Punching, just to get it out of the way. And as you can see, there's still quite a few kill bricks around, and this tilting section in particular gave me a bit of a scare, but it's just so much easier than the original tower was. There's a lot less strategizing and kill brick dodging than we've seen in some of the towers we've done so far, and whether or not that's a bad thing, I'm not really sure. There are a lot of kill bricks in this tower too, but it's just none of them are placed inconveniently. There's a couple sections where you have to time some jumps or be a little bit precise, but nothing worth mentioning. And again, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, it's just a different style of gameplay. But either way, it means we don't have to spend much time here in this video, so we can move on and look at Tower of Screen Punching next. Like most of the other old towers in this video, screen punching does not feature very many kill bricks whatsoever, and you won't actually encounter your first one until floor 6, so that's where we'll begin. And right off the bat, we're hit with a pretty concerning looking section with these 1-stud blocks on a kill brick that I mentioned before. And despite how scary it looks though, we can actually make it through as long as we hold jump the entire time to avoid sinking into the blocks. And going on the not fake path would help too. We don't see any other kill bricks on floor 6, so we'll go ahead and jump to floor 7, where we have a couple more to look at. First off, this truss, which is pretty easy as long as you go slow, and then we have these conveyors up ahead. And despite how terrifying they are, if you're really slow and careful, you can make it through without getting launched into the giant kill brick walls. After that, we've got this section with rope platforms with a very large jump, but if you rotate that first one, it's not too bad. Then we've got this monstrosity, which is somehow easily avoided, at least for now. But we'll circle back around and see what's going on top of it. And as you can see, we've got several more of these 1-stud thick platforms on top of a kill brick, in which we must hold jump and be very precise with our jumps, or else we will sink into the platform and touch the kill brick. Not too bad, nothing we haven't faced before. Up next is floor 8, which starts out with this section where you have to be careful not to hit your head on the kill bricks above. And just above that we have this super big kill brick, which I was struggling to get around for a while. It's a pretty tight jump and it's easy to just barely nick the kill brick, but once I tried it on the opposite side, I was able to get it first try. Which leaves only this last section of floor 8 down here, which is a couple more super precise kill brick jumps. Pretty fun to navigate around, but very difficult as well. This jump in particular was a little bit spooky because you have to land on this 1-stud platform on top of the kill brick. And that leaves us with just one last kill brick up ahead. This roof right here, which can be easily circumvented by ledge grabbing this tilted platform and jumping across, meaning that we can do Tower of Screen Punching with 0 hits. Pretty impressive. Now, I did struggle for just a minute to find my way through this section with the kill brick walls because it's sort of like a labyrinth, but once you find the right way, it's pretty easily possible without touching any kill bricks. This means we can move on to the most challenging tower in this challenge so far. And I mean it when I say that this tower was a problem. We start out on floor 1 with pretty much no kill bricks, and we can make our way to floor 2 where we are met with these lovely super large kill brick ramps. But at the end of them there are these 2 kill brick platforms that are going to cause us some grief. I spent quite a while looking around seeing if there was some platform I could jump up to or any sort of way to avoid taking damage from these kill bricks, but it's seeming like a Tower of Killjoys type situation where the only way to get past it is to jump on them. right at the beginning of the tower. Great start. The next stop is going to be this outside right here, which I actually found pretty fun to navigate, especially considering you usually just do this head hitter to get on top of the section and skip it all. Here, we have to actually figure out how to get around all of these kill bricks without taking any damage. It's a pretty tight section, but it ended up being possible, just barely. I ended up struggling on this section for quite a while, because you would either sink down and hit the kill brick below, or just barely nick the kill brick wall up above. However, with the power of alignment keys and T-pills once again, we're able to just about slide through this section and cross through this outside without taking a single hit of damage. And it's not long after that we face our next major problem, which is this cramped little hallway with a bunch of kill brick poles. My first thought was to use helicopter powers, but when you jump, you clip through the roof and hit the kill brick on top. And that means that our only option is to wall hop. And let me tell you, this was difficult. I spent a while, lots of trial and error, and I was ultimately able to conclude that it is technically possible to get through this section without taking a kill brick hit, although I was never technically able to get a full run myself. So we're going to move on and call it a theoretical 0, although it would be very, very difficult to pull off in a real run. Our next stop is on the next floor, where I first encountered this section where I thought we would be forced to take a kill brick hit before I realized I was just being stupid and you can just jump to the other side. But shortly after that we have this section with 2 kill brick spinners, which isn't particularly a problem, but it is very difficult, although possible if you time your jumps well and move quickly. There's this part here with a bunch of kill brick spinners which people often take loads of damage on, but if you really take your time to line it up, it's pretty easy to avoid every kill brick here without taking any damage. The rest of the floor is also pretty tricky, but if you're good at the game, it's really not too much of a problem, and we can get past and head on to the next floor. And for this next part, yeah. You can imagine my disappointment when I saw this section for the first time. And unfortunately, the best we can do here is minimize the amount of hits we have to take, which is going to add a couple onto our total. But the problems don't stop there. In fact, they keep getting worse because we have this moving platform. What a pain in the butt. This one was tricky because I thought for a while that it was most definitely going to be possible to avoid taking damage. But the more I tried, the more I realized that the platform is just a little bit too fast to catch in between those kill bricks right there. And so we are forced to take another hit. The next challenge we face is going to be this outside, which surprisingly is easier than you might expect. This first part we can just hug the cylinder here, and then for the second part we have to actually wrap around these kill brick walls as they are just a bit too tall to get over. A little bit annoying, but not too bad. And then for the rest of the outside, it just features a couple more of these precise kill brick jumps that we've seen throughout this tower. Although this second part was a bit more tricky due to the spinner, but as long as you stay focused, it's really not as bad as it looks. Boom. And we're on to floor 9. I'm sure many of you have seen this floor coming from a mile away as soon as we started this tower. And it's probably just as bad as you think. Luckily, this first moving platform isn't nearly as bad as the one on the previous floor. It's what's above us that really matters here. Before we can get into the maze though, we've got a couple tricky kill brick jumps outside that we need to take on first, starting with these super tall ones, which you can just about wrap around with T-pose. And after those pillars, we've got this flat section where the kill bricks are super long and we have to do some more wraps. And it starts to tilt upwards, which makes it quite a bit more difficult. Luckily, I was able to get it fairly quickly, which means we can move on to what I've been dreading for this entire tower, and that's the kill brick maze at the top of floor 9. And for starters, you can't even get in, because the truss is just too close to the kill brick floors up above, and no matter what I tried, I was not able to sneak in without taking a hit, which means we'll be adding another one to our total. Now it's time to talk about the maze. This section was an absolute nightmare, and I'm sure you could guess. I tried so many different things, but I ultimately decided that the best way to do it was to use T-pose and slide along the kill bricks. However, because of all the seams in the ground, you end up taking damage randomly when walking around. So I spent several minutes rigorously testing this area to see just how few kill brick hits I could get it done in. And I was ultimately able to narrow it down to 13, which sounds like a lot, but trust me, for this maze, it's about as good as we're going to get. And that means we're at 23 hits total for Tower of Impossible Expectations. Now, you are welcome to go and test this maze yourself to see if you can get less hits, but I personally cannot recommend it. It was not very fun. That being said, we can finally move on from this disaster onto the next tower. In Tower True Skill, we're starting here on floor 4 with these kill brick wraps, which are relatively easy to avoid as long as you line up your jumps. We're starting up here, by the way, because the first 3 floors, as we've seen in a couple other towers, just don't have any kill bricks. And after these 2 wraps, we're faced with these. And honestly, I wasn't even going to bother. There's no way to get around these, so we're just gonna add 4 hits straight onto our total once again. Next, we're gonna jump up to floor 8 where we see our next set of kill bricks. And if you know anything about this tower, you'll know that this floor is a survival section. So we just need to minimize the amount of hits we have to take once again. And right off the bat, we have to take 4, followed shortly after by a 5th hit right here. Then for this long one, you are forced to take 3 hits to get across. And for this next part, at first glance, it seems like you have to take 3 hits here as well. Although, if you're smart about it, you can get it in 2 because you don't have to use this upper kill brick. We then have to take 1 hit here, 1 right here, and 1 last one right here before we can call Tower of True Skill done. And with that, we're done with our lightning round tower. Pretty quick one, seeing as we didn't have any kill breaks outside of floor 4 and floor 8. The rest of the tower is barren. And with that, we can move on to the soul crushing of Ring 1. Let's get this done. So Tower of Infinity Gauntlet is actually not as interesting as you might think because it suffers from the same problems as Tower Stress and Tower of Rage, where all of the kill bricks are pretty easy to dodge. However, there are still a couple of sections worth covering. The first one is this speed section right here on floor 2, which despite being fairly short, actually had some pretty difficult timings to get over this kill brick spinner, especially on this second jump right here where you have to really line it up to make sure you don't hit either of the kill bricks that you're jumping over. We'll then jump to this part up here where I first wanted to show off this funny little skip you can do to get past the tightrope a little bit faster. But after that, we actually face a bit of a problem with this upcoming 3-stud wraparound. As you can see, there's a kill brick ceiling above us, and if you try and wrap around this, you'll just smack your noggin on that up there. I first thought we would have to do this as a walk around before remembering that you can just grab the ledge and do a little bounce, which solves this problem. And that's actually it for Tower of Infinity Gauntlet. I really thought there would be more concerning kill brick sections, but nope. The tower is easy as can be to do hitless, which means we've got another 0 on our list. Awesome. And we can move on to Citadel of Laptop Splitting to finish off this episode. And I actually found this Citadel to be one of the more interesting parts of this video. We don't see any killbricks until this outside here with this super fast killbrick spinner. And although the timings are pretty tight, I was ultimately able to prove that it's possible to get through damageless. But I did struggle for a while, especially on the end section, just because the jumps can be a little bit tight. Right here to be exact. And I realize now that I was making it a little bit harder on myself by trying to do this by jumping over the killbrick while it's moving, but regardless, I was able to clear it after some struggle. We're not done with this floor yet though, because we first got this zipline that takes us straight onto a tilting platform with a killbrick spinner. And if you're unlucky, it can chuck you straight onto the killbrick, which is why you need to jump off early, and then it's just a matter of dodging this spinner. Then on this last killbrick up here, you actually just have to get lucky with the moving platform timing and then move fast so that you don't get caught by the killbrick. Wow. All that work for one floor, and I think you can see that this one is gonna be a long one. Let's move on to floor 5. On this floor, we face a problem while trying to get outside. We have this killbrick that completely covers the platform leading out there. And so, of course, there's no way around it, so we just have to minimize our hits. Only problem is that this killbrick is another one where you just take damage for no reason while walking across it. So, after trying it for a while to see if I could get it to work, I ultimately decided that the best way to do it would just be to jump, and I was forced to take 3 hits, meaning we have our total so far. That leads us to our next section, which is going to be up here on floor 6, where we're forced to ledge grab on these jumps or else we'll hit our head on the ceiling and take damage. And following that is a pretty concerning section, and I'm sure you saw it coming. This dropper right here is filled to the brim with killbricks. And so I first wanted to see just what would happen if I tried to go through, and it did not go so well, as you would expect. So we had to resort to plan B, which is something that I actually thought of earlier. While trying to avoid the outside killbrick on 5, I thought about clipping out of the frame and jumping down to the teleporter on the dropper. And that didn't really work down there, but it will save us right here. And I think it's a pretty cool way to avoid these killbricks. And it actually ended up being a little more complicated than I expected, so here's the route I ultimately decided on. First, we clip out to hit this teleporter here, which takes us to this box. And after that, we can clip out of this box to have an easier time getting down to the section with the button. Then we have to go all the way around this entire big outside to grab this button real fast that we need to progress. And then we do the entire outside a second time so that we can abuse this X pusher right here to drop down to the teleporter platform like that, which allows us to skip all of the killbricks in the dropper except for this last one where we're forced to take a killbrick hit. Or so I thought. You see, while I was editing, I realized that there was probably a way to get around this killbrick hit, which involved going down and to the bottom of the dropper to clip inside instead of dropping to the teleporter platform. Now, at first, I didn't think this was actually going to be possible because there's this little teleporter here on the corner that just puts you at the front of the citadel. However, for whatever reason, the back corner doesn't have that, meaning that we can clip inside and actually save a killbrick hit here. This means we can move on to our next section, which is another one that actually inspired me to start this challenge. This room leading to the basement with these killbricks. And if you try and jump over them normally, you can see it's just barely too long to pass, which means we have to think outside the box once again. And my solution here was to lag high jump against the wall, which gives you enough height to get over the killbrick. And we just have to repeat this a couple of times, and bam, we're in the basement. Our next problem section is down here on the second basement, and my solution to this killbrick spinner here was to lag high jump once again. Although this time it's not quite so easy, because the spinner is fast and you have to time it well. And as you can see, I was never able to get it in one single run, but I was able to prove it was technically possible, at least up until these last 1 studs, where we are forced to take 3 more hits of damage because there's just no walls to lag high jump on. Unfortunate, but we did our best. Although it's not required, we can utilize momentum to our advantage to get a little bit of a head start on this killbrick spinner section, since it can be a little bit tight on its own. Then after that, on this bottom section, we just have to take the main path to avoid dealing with a killbrick spinner, and that leads us to this room. Now here we've got a pretty big killbrick that's obviously going to be unavoidable. And although I tried helicopter powers as well, it's another one of those killbricks where you just kinda take damage for no apparent reason. Only this time I had a trick up my sleeve. If you stick against the wall and slide on the killbrick, you can actually get across without taking any random spontaneous damage. And so that lets us get through this section with only 1 extra hit on our total, leaving us with 7 coming out of the basements. The backyard proved to be incredibly tricky due to it being completely luck-based. You have to rely on the timer of the killbrick spinner as well as the moving platform, but as you can see, I was just barely able to get it after spending a couple minutes attempting. Floor 9 doesn't feature any killbricks on its own, but the transition to floor 10 is pretty tough as you have to hit this super tight wrap using T-pose to make sure that you don't touch any of the killbricks. All that just to be forced to take a hit of damage to start the next floor. Beautiful. As long as you're careful not to take damage right here, we can actually breeze through the next couple of floors with no problems whatsoever because they feature little to no killbricks. But we are going to make a quick pit stop on 10 so I can show you a couple of things. First is that I think it's kind of funny that the way I avoided this killbrick spinner was by standing on the edges of this moving platform. But then, out here, we've got a whole mini challenge dedicated to exactly what we're doing in this video. Isn't that so fun? Now we approach the second dropper of the Citadel, which, spoiler alert, is going to take just as much finagling to get through as the first one did. But for starters, let's see what happens when we try to get to the bottom. And surprisingly, by some miracle, it's actually not too bad, and we can get straight to the bottom with no problems, as all of the killbricks are spaced in such a way that we can just drop through all the holes straight down. So you might be wondering what the problem here even is, and I'll just show you. Up here on the roof, there is a plethora of killbricks, and although these killbrick walls and the killbrick spinner are pretty annoying, the primary offender is this hole in the wall over here, because no matter what I tried, I couldn't get through it. Helicopter powers would hit the roof, and trying to time the jump would result in either smacking the roof or just barely clipping the bottom. And so, as I tried and tried, I was absolutely certain that this was going to be a guaranteed killbrick hit. But that's when I had a pretty crazy idea. What if, instead of going through this hole, we just jump down, get teleported to the front of the Citadel, clip back inside, and then climb all the way back up? Only this time, our goal isn't to get all the way to the top, because we're stopping right here on floor 5. Where we will utilize the trusses that we activated earlier in the Citadel to get all the way up to floor 6. And once we're up here, we can actually drop down and utilize this second exit to the outside so that we don't have to deal with that killbrick from earlier. Then we wait for the moving platform and we ride it all the way to the second challenge, which is just over here. And if you didn't know this already, there's actually a pretty cool skip you can do to get down to the dropper, and if we do a momentum jump off of this X pusher, we can abuse it to get all the way to the other side of all of the killbricks, saving us one single killbrick hit. Wow. Thankfully, after that whole charade, the rest of the Citadel is basically done. We don't see another killbrick until right here at the start of the darkness section, where we have this sneaky killbrick that will hit you if you don't jump. We have to use helicopter powers to get under this killbrick roof without taking damage, and although I'd normally take a skip on this next part, it requires jumping on killbricks, so we have to do it the normal way. Thankfully though, the rest of this room is possible without taking any damage, so we'll move on to our next and final stop of the Citadel, which is up here on floor 16. Where, to my dismay, I realized that there was nothing we could do to avoid these killbricks in this next room. So we're going to have to just minimize the amount of hits we have to take here. We were standing at a solid 1 killbrick hit all the way up until this part where we unfortunately have to take another one, because there's no way to get through these small cramped hallways without getting forced up and over the killbrick before coming back down again, which forces a second bit of damage upon you. Thankfully though, that's the end of killbrick hits for this room, but fortunately I can't say the same for the next one. These 2 killbricks right here are just way too close to the ceiling to get over, and we can't go under either because the space down there is also too tight, which means we are forced to take 2 more hits right here because there's just no way to get past these. Believe it or not though, those are actually the last 2 hits that we have to take for the entire Citadel, and we can make a mad dash for the end to get out of here, leaving us with a grand total of 11 killbrick hits, which I'm pretty happy with. If you were paying attention though, you'll realize that that's 1 less than I actually counted, and that's because I forgot to mention that I went back to that killbrick on floor 5 outside, and I managed to get it done in only 2 hits. That means that we're done with Citadel laptop splitting, but this episode isn't over yet because we've got one final section that I like to call cleanup. And we're going to revisit a couple of the other towers we've done in this video to see if I can clean up some of the sections and reduce some killbrick hits. And so let's just hop right into it, starting with Tower of Killjoys. So if you add up all of the killbrick hits from each tower we've done so far, we end up with a current total of 66 hits. And our goal in this section is to reduce that as much as possible by revisiting sections that we struggled with in the past. In the case of Tower of Killjoys, that means that all of our work is going to be done towards the end of the tower. Starting here with this hole that I'm sure you remember, I struggled with quite a bit on my first run through. Turns out there's a seam here that you can wall hop around the corner and we can actually save the hit, meaning that all of my work back then was for nothing, because I'm blind. As for this section down here, we can actually use our newfound powers with T-pose to slide along these killbricks and take only 1 hit of damage, which is pretty big. It's gonna shave a couple of hits off our final total, even though I accidentally took a hit right at the end there. Don't worry about that. It's very much possible with only 1. That brings our Tower of Killjoys hit total to a measly 4, which is so much better than we had before, and I'm pretty happy with that total. Let's move on to Tower of Impossible Expectations next. This one's going to be more about proving that what we did before was actually possible, starting with this wall hop, which I was able to do with the help of a macro. Then I moved on to this killbrick spinner section, which was actually a lot trickier to prove than I thought. Although after about 10 minutes of trying, I was able to get this run where I only took 1 hit here, which I think is enough to prove it's possible. Now that we've revisited the sections that I skipped over before, I decided to take a quick stop at this moving platform to try it out once again. But despite all of my efforts, I was only able to get a slightly better score where I saved a single killbrick hit, which brings Tower of Impossible Expectations down to 22, and our total to 54. Now, I really do think that this moving platform might be possible hitless. I tried it for a couple minutes, but I was unable to get a completely hitless run. It's just a really tight timing. So, once again, you're welcome to try it out for yourself, but we're gonna move on for now. The only thing we can do in Tower of True Skill is this super precise trick, which involves getting around this killbrick wall onto the safe part. And this trick actually took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit. It was pretty tricky, but with enough time, I was able to persevere, which means that we save a single killbrick hit in Tower of True Skill. Nice. Unfortunately, that means we have to do what I said I would do towards the beginning of this video. That's right, we're back in Tower of Heck, and it's time to attempt this crazy lag high jump over and over and over to see if I can prove it. And I know I said the last one took me a while, but this one took me a while. So long, in fact, that I did it in a couple of different sessions. I'm just gonna let you watch the sped up footage for a minute and enjoy the music before I reveal the results of all of my efforts. For my last session trying this, I decided to go all or nothing, and I even brought one of my friends along to try it with me. And after a while, we were really considering giving up. That is, until this happened. Oh my god! That's actually so crazy! No way! Oh, I cannot believe that was actually possible at the end of the day. Wow. All that for 3 killbrick hits. Oh my god, this series is gonna be hard. It's gonna be so hard. Stay tuned for episode 2! And that just about does it. I wasn't very confident that we would be able to make it out of Tower of Heck without any killbrick hits, since I had been attempting that jump all throughout recording this episode, but I'm glad I was able to prove it was possible. And that means that that tower stays at 0 hits, and our final total for Ring 1 is, drumroll please, 53 killbrick hits, which I think is a pretty good score once you think about just how many killbricks are actually in this ring. And thanks for sticking around through this whole video. This was just the first episode of this series, which I'm calling EToH Low Percent. I don't plan on covering the entire game, but I'd like to do a couple of other areas. I was thinking of doing Zone 1, Forgotten Ridge, Ring 2, or Ring 0 in the next episode, so let me know what you'd like to see. And thank you for all of the support you've given to my channel. I have several more fun videos planned in the near future, including an extra special one for when I hit 500 subscribers, which I'm getting pretty close, so I'd appreciate any help I can get. It's also worth noting that this is my first time ever doing any kind of voiceover content, so I'm still relatively new to it. I didn't even write a script for anything other than the intro or outro, so any feedback you have is greatly appreciated. And I'll do my best to make better videos going forward. Also, a reminder that I'm going to try and stream once a week, so tune in if you want to say hello. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.